Let's talk about how we got the word sloppy. It goes back to the Middle English era when cool kids stuck a Y at the end of slop to make an adjective. This looks to have happened in the early part of the 15th century. Before that, all we had was slop, which has a story of its own. The word slop was first attested in English in the early 14th century, derived from the Middle Dutch slop, spelled like old-timey shop with 2 P's and an E. This slop meant a puddle. During that period, slop was employed to represent a mud puddle. Visualize a landscape filled with mud and mess, and you have slop. I imagine you didn't need to go far in 1300s Netherlands to find a mud puddle. Not much drainage back then, after all. Anyhow, as the centuries rolled on, slop gave rise to sloppy and took on a broader definition, one that is more familiar to us in the present day. From a humble mud puddle, sloppy evolved to characterize anything disordered or watered down. Consider the progression, from a literal quagmire to a metaphor for disorder and chaos. Isn't it nifty how people generalize the meanings of words over time, baking in metaphors like a piece of cheese in a moist bun? So there you have it. Whenever you label something as sloppy, you're essentially comparing it to a 15th century puddle of mud. Now let's talk ass, which has a few different meanings, each developing at different times. Ass comes from the Old English word assa, which was used to refer to a type of donkey or mule. Not much has changed with this meaning over the ages, but it did lose a syllable from its backside. Old English assa came from asinus, which also meant donkey. So that puts us 2 syllables down from the original. How about that? The word asinus was a part of everyday Roman life, and it's no surprise that it found its way into English. After all, donkeys were widely used in Roman times for transportation and labour. This is where the story of ass begins, a humble term for a humble creature. But as we'll see, ass was destined for more than just the farm. Over the centuries, the English ass as we know it would transform and expand in meaning as well as grammatical function. So let's make like linguistic proctologists and go a bit deeper into ass and see what we find. Of course, ass didn't just stick to its animal origin. In fact, it broadened its meaning in quite a bold way. By the 19th century, the term ass had begun to be used as a slang term for the buttocks or anus. This usage was first noted in the United States, marking another linguistic divergence between American and British English. The shift from a term for a hard-working animal to a part of human anatomy is an interesting case of how language can evolve in surprising ways. How that happened is a mystery, mind you. Not that I can't look it up, but more like I'm simply afraid to, but hang on, the journey of ass doesn't stop there. By the mid-1900s, ass began to be used as an adverbial modifier of adjectives, giving birth to phrases like big ass, fat ass, and hot ass. This usage is quite unique, as it is an interesting example of a noun being affixed to an adjective, thereby getting co-opted grammatically to function as an adverb. That's what I'd call some crazy-ass linguistic shit. The weird thing is, it's hard to pin down the connotation of this adverbial ass. While there's a lingering sense of buttocks or anus, it's there very arbitrarily. At the same time, the affixed ass seems to add an emphatic sense to the adjective it modifies. It's utter madness. I love it. Speaking of ass-related things, if you said cucka to a Viking, they'd think you were talking about cake. How about that for an awkward transition? Let's talk about pancakes then. Pancake first made its appearance in the 14th century in Middle English. As you might guess, it's a compound word, a delightful blend of pan and cake. The term pan has its roots in the Old English pane, with an E at the end. Further back, we get to the Proto-Germanic word panna, with an A at the end. First attested in the 8th century, it was used to describe a broad, shallow vessel used for cooking. On the other hand, cake has a more complex history. It comes from the Old Norse kaka, dating back to the 13th century. This term was used to refer to a baked flour confection sweetened with honey. Well, that was a bit anticlimactic, wasn't it? What with all that ass in the middle. I hope you had a good time, though. Have a great ass rest of your day. Goodbye.